Hello, hello. And today we have a very special guest who I'm excited to chat with. As the danger of these conversations is before we start recording, we get into the weeds and stories behind how a name came up or what the business is, but we had to hold off here so we could dive into the interview to really ask these questions and really pull back the curtain on a very interesting business here. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with Vivek, the founder of Vikasietum Technology. Before I even pass it over, I was going to do a little explanation of the business, but I always love hearing founders talk about the business in their own words. So Vivek, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. Maybe to start, would love if you could just share a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what your company is and what you do.
Sure. Thanks, Arjun. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Namaskaram, or as we say, namaste in Hindi. So good to be here. I am Vivek. I am the founder of Vikasietum Technology, as you just mentioned. So I have been in the IT services business for more than 3 decades, and have had the opportunity to work with the various Fortune 500 customers. And in that role, I have had the chance to be a sort of a global citizen, having lived in US for multiple years, Europe, Far East, and of course, India. And during that period, I noticed that there still is a lack of delivery excellence, especially for the SME segment. And this has led to dissatisfaction of these customers with the current, IT vendors and partners. So keeping that in mind, I sort of decided to, set up Vikasietum Technology to cater to this segment, and of course, take advantage of the experience that I have had so far. I am based out of Pune, which is our headquarters for Vikasietum Technology. We also have a registered entity in the US. So I'm based out of Pune, and which is in the western part of India. So this is just to start with and give you a little insight or a little peek into what Vikasietum Technology is all about. If I have to put it in one line, I would say that it is providing world-class IT services to our global SME customers and leveraging the IT talent from India. So that's in brief what I'm trying to do at Vikasietum or with Vikasietum.
Wow, well, global SMEs, I have a couple of questions here. That sounds extremely ambitious. I'm not surprised, but I want to really hear, and I'm sure others do, how you're doing it, where the business is, etc. Before we do that, though, I have to ask, can you explain the name and the story behind the name?
Okay, so yeah. So interestingly, it is a tongue twister, and if you are setting up a global entity, it always makes sense to make it something that is pronounceable by the audience that you are trying to target. I have actually gone the opposite way, and so Vikasietum actually is a Sanskrit name or a Sanskrit word, and which means to bloom or to blossom. And the thought process behind it was to, we wanted to make all this relationship with our stakeholders, whether it be the customers, whether it be our employees, the team, the ecosystem of partners that we are trying to create. All these relationships, we want to make them bloom to their full potential. So that was the intent and the context behind naming the company Vikasietum. And technology, of course, a no-brainer because we are in that space. So hence the name Vikasietum Technology.
Got it. It's always fascinating to hear the story of company creations, even the name behind it itself. Let's actually switch to what I was alluding to before. This company sounds extremely ambitious. You have global ambitions. Could you talk about maybe the stage your company is at today right now, and maybe what your top focuses are right now for the business and helping you achieve or go towards that one-liner? You're trying to serve SMEs globally by leveraging the talent in India, if I understand.
That is correct. So as of now, we are still a very young company. It's been a year. Interestingly, I started last year, mid 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, which may not have been the best time to start, but that's when all the stars got aligned for me, and I was able to move from my earlier role to focus on Vikasietum full time. So the thought has always been there with me. I was telling you about what I felt was something that was lacking um, from an IT service provider perspective to SMEs currently. And so I felt that it may be the right option for me to go ahead and try to address this segment. And given that I have had enough experience in IT services, always, as they say, you should always aim big. So which is why these global aspirations. Of course, it's been 1 year, and it's been slow and steady growth. We have customers from the US, we have customers from Japan. So it's been an interesting ride so far. Naturally, we want to build on these early successes and truly make it and take it global. Because from my experience, I can tell you, Arjun, that while there are enough and more IT service providers, the repeatability of delivery excellence is something that's lacking. So, you may have one project that may have gone very well, but the next one, for whatever reason, flounders. So, I understand that the SME, and especially the SME segment, the big ones, the Fortune 500 ones, they can, afford and of course get the best teams to work for them. The SME folks may have struggled finding the right talent to support them in the IT area. And that's the gap we are trying to fulfill, giving them repeatability of delivery excellence, project after project, work after work, team after team, that kind of thing. So that's the intent behind setting it up. Journey has been interesting. It has been slow and steady growth, despite the pandemic, despite the effect on businesses worldwide. We have managed to, right, because of my connects, because people have seen me, customers have seen me operating. The moment I took the decision to set it up, interestingly, I was approached saying, can you help set up our IT team? Can you do this for us? And that's how the business started. And by divine grace, it's been going great so far. So why not global aspirations, right?
Love it. And I think you mentioned the middle of a pandemic. Is that the best time to start a company? Part of me thinks if you can start a company in the middle of the pandemic, what can't you do? So I think obviously it sounds like, I'm sure there are parts in any entrepreneurial story where there's luck involved, but I think there's no shortage of hard work, and it sounds like you've been working very hard there. Question here for you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, absolutely. And it has worked so far for me. So,
hey, as long as you have happy customers, a fantastic experience, and a good product, that's all you can ask for at a minimum. Absolutely. Question for you here. You mentioned you are based in India, and you're building an ambitious company with global ambitions. How did you go through the process of deciding, I want to launch a US company?
No, valid question, Arjun. And this decision was sort of not only mine, it was also fueled by ambitions of our customers. So as I mentioned, we have a few US customers and a few non-US customers. And interestingly, all of them wanted Vikasietum to be in the US. It is, of course, ease of operations. US is a very business-friendly country with everything set up properly. The legal framework, the contractual frameworks, what have you, from an operational perspective, very easy to, operate there. So both from a US customer perspective as well as for the other customers, they wanted us to have that international presence. It gives you and your brand credibility. So they were the ones who suggested that I should set it up, and it was there in the back of my mind But when customers are also saying that that's the right way to go, then you don't question that. So, that's how the US operation started.
Very interesting. If you had to summarize, what would you say are the biggest benefits of having a US company?
So, as I mentioned before, it does make logical sense because from a US perspective, ease of operations. Ease of operations not only for me and Vikasietum, but also for my customers. Contractual framework, having the same currency. See, and also it gives you credibility. And all said and done, US dollar is still the most widely accepted and recognized currency worldwide for business transactions. So from that perspective, it's sort of a no-brainer.
Got it. It makes a ton of sense. We hear that from our customers globally as well. You must have been, and you sound like you're a very systematic thinker, very thorough, part of what it takes to be a founder. When you were evaluating options for launching your US company, how did you make a decision and why did you end up choosing Doola to launch your US company?
So, Arjun, like you do for any process nowadays, when we were growing up, of course, Google or web search, these were things that were not in existence. But nowadays, even if you want to learn guitar, to you want to found your company, to you want to register in the US, the first thing you do is type the keywords and do the search. So that was, of course, one option that I took. And of course, and I also am connected with various founders who have also set up and registered their companies in the US. So I reached out to them too, people whom I trust, and I checked from them. So naturally, in web searches, Doola came up, and it also came as a referral from some of the founders who had registered their companies in the US. So why reinvent the wheel again? So I went with a chosen option that they had gone with, and I chose Doola, and no regrets so far. It has been a great journey working with you and your team. Great service, prompt response, and of course, continuous ongoing engagement like the one we are having currently. Now, registering a company, that's been done and dusted, right? It should have been the end of the transaction, so to speak, but ongoing engagement. So those are things that sort of made me choose Doola over others. And as I said, I'm happy with whatever services and all the hand-holding that has gone through this setup process so far. So thank you.
No, thank you. And I say that because it's what makes this exciting for us is we get to work with founders working on the cutting edge, building brand new products, brand new services from scratch. And that doesn't get old any day. So it really truly is, the pleasure is ours. What I would ask you now, maybe a little trickier question, is for many folks and founders, there's this moment or this decisive moment when they decide to take the plunge and decide to start their company. Look, starting a company, let alone in the middle of the pandemic, is hard. Let alone this is going to be a global company, let alone, I don't know if you personally know the US tax code or US banking, but no, we're going to launch a US company too. You might not have known any of those things, yet you just still decided, I'm going to start a company, I'm going to do it in the pandemic, and I'm going to go global and launch a US company too. What advice would you have for other founders? Let's even be more specific, founders in India who have aspirations of launching a global US company and are maybe thinking to themselves, I'm not ready, or I don't fully know everything. What did you do, or what moment, was there a specific moment in time when you realized I'm ready to do this, or I'm going to take the leap? And how did you come to that moment?
So it has been back of my mind for quite some time. And as I mentioned, mid of last year, right in the middle of the pandemic is when, things aligned and I got the whole journey started for Vikasietum. Keeping in mind, what do you need to think about? What could be the more challenging parts of starting the business? So if you keep the financial and operational part aside, like the working capital, the cash flow, if you keep that aside, the most challenging part for me was to have an industry problem statement, that I was not only passionate about, but also competent enough to address. So, that should be the base, at least as far as I was concerned, that, okay, I feel that there is this problem statement in the industry, and that's the segment that I want to address. I'm passionate about solving that problem statement. And also I have the competence because of my experience and expertise. And I believe I should be able to make a dent in that problem statement. So that was my thought process. Now, all founders will have their own journeys. So definitely passion and your own competence, they should be the starting point. From a focus on setting up a US company, I was fortunate enough to have been there in the US, worked there for many years. For those who have not had that opportunity, it would make sense to connect within your network like I did, find someone who has done something like this before, because then they can guide you. They can also refer companies like yourself, like doola, and you, Arjun, so that you can then handhold them through the process, right? So as you mentioned, setting up the company is just one thing. So you not only guided me through the process, but I'm reaching out to you and your team for any help that I need for taxation, US taxation, or for US legal counsel. And so you have set up an ecosystem there where I can reach out and utilize these services too. So, that's a boon. And I would suggest the same for other founders too.
Love it. And I really like the focus you had on solving a clear problem statement. I think one of my favorite sayings there is the user owns the problem, but the founder of the company owns the solution. But I love that focus on the problem. What is the exact problem we're solving? And let's solve that well. And even before, I could sense you saying we're going to focus on providing this excellence, this continued excellence on that problem. So I'm not surprised to see the success so far. With that in mind, can you give a little sneak peek for maybe what's coming up in the rest of this year and next year for the business?
So the rest of this year, we are just consolidating on the customers that we have so far, stabilizing the team, and get ready for the growth that we know is going to be coming next year. From a next year perspective, and if I have to sort of again address it in one line, so the plan is to grow the business one SME at a time, or should I say one satisfied SME at a time. So that's the plan. Keep growing the business, one satisfied SME at a time.
Love it. And I also love that our goal at Doola here is to have ongoing relationships, whether it's helping folks with compliance or new services or new products. So I love it because I'm going to be, and we're going to be along for the ride and get to see how big you can take this company. Before we wrap up here, I'm sure there are many things, but are there specific links or websites you'd like to share so people can learn more about you or your company? And we'll absolutely include this in a lot of the assets and the media clips we put out after, but want to give you a chance to share any specific things.
No, thanks a lot. Thank you again, Arjun. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for doola and your team. As you rightly said, it is not just a one transaction kind of business where you help set up the US business entity. No, it is much beyond that. You're offering me this platform. You're offering me this ecosystem of partners that you are better equipped to find for me, or folks like me, founders like me, who may not be there in the US. So thank you again for that. Much appreciated. And regarding the links, I would definitely share the links with you, which maybe you can post at the right places. We are there on Facebook, we are there on LinkedIn, we have our own website. I will be sharing those links with you. And I look forward to engaging with you and your team, and of course, the larger doola community, and see if there is any SMEs there who need IT help. We are there for them.
Love it. Thank you so much. Really excited to see where the business goes. And I personally love hearing these, and I'm sure many other founders out there will be inspired and can learn a lot from you too. So let's see, maybe a year from now, we'll be talking about, you said you're building or growing one SME at a time. It sounds like it might be 10 at a time based on the rate you're going, but it was a pleasure chatting today. Thank you so much.
No, thanks a lot, Arjun. Thank you from Team Vikasietum. I really thank you for all the help and support that you have provided so far, and look forward to a great continuing engagement with you and your team.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.